Greetings all, and welcome to my first Draconic Summit Winter 2026 panel. It's a pleasure to see you all here listening in. My name is Luunaathh. I am a Draconic identifying indigenous Mesoamerican traditional dancer who dances in the Mexica tradition. The topic I will be discussing during this panel will be my sacred connection with eagles as an indigenous Mesoamerican traditional dancer, and how it aids my being in connecting with not only my draconity, though my general non-humanity as well. My relationship with eagle medicine and eagle energy goes far deeper than a spiritual connection, I think. It's a connection that speaks to my indigenous mind blood. It's a connection that teaches my being about who I am as a non-human being, as an indigenous person, and as a general individual. This connection I have with eagle is pretty much more profound than almost anything in my entire life. And I figured it was about time that I talked about this connection in detail. I'm actually holding my eagle feather right now as I'm talking during this panel, so I can speak about this subject in a good way. Though this is the Draconic Summit, so I will be discussing my draconity before I go into anything else in this panel. My spirit upon this earth is a fragment of a divine celestial dragon who I call Luunaathh, who has her own draconic language that features repeating letters, as you can tell from my name. She's an interesting one. Luunaathh is a non-perceivable divine celestial draconic entity that peers through my human body to understand mortal lives, collect knowledge, and experience things upon this earth that she has always been interested in. I'm essentially her little spy that she sends to worlds for her own benefit. I'm nothing special to her, really. A fun fact about her, though, she is also highly radioactive, though she is a star dragon, so that's only natural for her. Her otherworldly blue colors stem from her radioactive nature and the immense energy that she constantly produces. However, I couldn't tell you what these radioactive elements are called. I actually need to ask Luunaathh about them still, though they're way more potent than anything in this universe. So she can't even be on other planets. She has to send fragments of herself like my being to experience things. She's just walking destruction. Luunaathh is an undying being that is eternal. She has existed long before this universe and will continue to exist long after. And she will also send other fragments of herself to this world to experience things and collect knowledge. Again, I'm not all that special to her. I'm just a means to an end. I'm just a means to collect information. I do want to say, though, that I am not truly Luunaathh as I am now, however, as it would be incredibly disingenuous to say that I, upon this earth, am in any way divine. I'm just a being who likes feathers, does stuff, and eats way too much snow crab. What I am upon this earth, however, is the spirit of a lycodraconic werewolf named Narok that was originally created by Luunaathh and has lived additional physical lives as a werewolf. I don't know exactly how to describe it, though. I'm still a fragment of Luunaathh, though that werewolf is also a fragment of Luunaathh, and that werewolf got incarnated into this body. It's an insane otherkin story, I know. One of the physical lives of Narok, as I said before, was reincarnated into this human body, and I liken this experience of mine to a scenario where a divine being creates a servant, that servant dies, and its spirit is incarnated into another body. And again, I'm the servant. Narok was created as another extension of Luunaathh, an extension like a solar flare would be to the sun itself. I guess Luunaathh wanted to see what it was like to be a dog. I'll ask Luunaathh about that more, though honestly it's kind of funny to think that a divine celestial dragon wanted to know what it was like to be dog-brained. Yeah, Luunaathh does peer through my being, and she influences my human mind significantly to the point where it deeply affects my spirituality, my worldview, my beliefs, and my actions. Though, upon this earth, I adopt Luunaath's traits more than my own, like, I have this sense of draconic pride that I always carry around with my being, that's influenced by Luunaathh, and many other things that aren't currently coming to mind right now, that I'll probably talk about in the summit more. As Naraka, though, I am still just the wolf that is the extension of her. Again, I know this sounds like an insane otherkin story, and it kind of is, honestly. Though these are my origins, this is what I am, and I don't mind. And I hope others don't mind either. To go into detail about my indigenous heritage, though, I am indigenous Maya. This lineage, my Maya heritage, is from the human body's matrilineal side. I unfortunately do not know what heritage the human body's patrilineal side is. None of us in the family know for sure, since that knowledge has sadly been lost over time. So I claim my indigenous Maya heritage, since, again, I don't know what it was. I don't. Sorry, I got distracted. I don't know that knowledge. I might try to uncover it at some point in the future, though it's going to be difficult without any concrete evidence, I suppose, of that heritage. I am a traditional indigenous dancer who dances in the tradition of the Mexica people, or as many people know them, the Aztec people. For context, though, many don't know this, though Aztec is a colonial term. That's what the Spaniards originally called the Mexica people. And sometimes this tradition I practice is called danza azteca, though that's also a colonial term. It's neither Aztec nor danza, which is a Spanish word, are Nahuatl words. Nahuatl being the original language of the Mexica people and many other indigenous Mesoamerican peoples. There's multiple dialects of Nahuatl, and quite a few of those dialects are still spoken today. I'm learning the Huasteca Nahuatl dialect currently. So the ceremonial aspect of Mesoamerican tradition, this tradition that I follow, that almost seamlessly connects with my non-humanity and my therianthropy is the ceremonial dancing that I engage with. I am part of a traditional Mexica dance group called the Calpuli, which is a group where we engage in ancient, sacred indigenous traditions, practice in Tenochtitlan, and sometimes other parts of Mesoamerica. Common ceremonies we practice in these groups and the Olinkan conformity are seasonal ceremonies like solstice ceremonies, anniversary ceremonies, and other miscellaneous ceremonies. Many of these to celebrate the festivals that or celebrations that the people in Tenochtitlan did before colonization and continued to celebrate even after. So during these ceremonies, we adhere to many sacred Mesoamerican traditions, and we revere the elements, the spirits, and the energies within our vicinity. We call many people in Danza Azteca spaces call what would be considered the gods to many people energies, since some don't believe that they should be called gods, rather just energies, though I call them gods regardless. That's just my own personal choice, though. We often use sacred items such as the wewet, which is a ceremonial drum, the heart of Danza, also known as the grandfather drum. The poposhkomit, something I personally use as a salmador. It's called sacred female lighter, and it's used in ceremonies by burning copal, palo santo, and coal. And we use that to smudge the spaces, cleanse the spaces for the energies before Danza, and after Danza too. We open and close each ceremony. And another one of these items is called the etekokoli, which is a conch shell, blown to also clear the energy around the space. It's to lighten the atmosphere of the space that we are dancing in and to ensure that we're dancing in a good way. Each and every aspect of these traditional ways has sacred meaning and is in reverence to the world around us. For my being personally, engaging with Mesoamerican ceremonial dances has been very empowering, not only for my being as an indigenous Maya individual, though also as a non-human identifying individual. Dancing helps my being invoke phantom shifts. And when as a group, when we open and close the dance, when I hold my poposhko meat, I feel a connection to the wolf and the vulture that I am. Though it is really when we're dancing that the most transformative experience happens for my being. In a limited attempt to describe the powerful experiences I have dancing as the wolf spirit and the vulture spirit that I am, and not the human that I am, during Danza, when I invoke the spirit of the wolf specifically, I dance with greater vigor and fury than I ever could dancing as a human. When I dance as a wolf, I'm able to carry on dancing even when my human body is pushed to the point of exhaustion. And it's a testament to the vigor and the energy of my wolf side. I wouldn't be able to dance as vigorously as I used to if not for my phantom shifts as a wolf. And I feel like I dance possessed, like I'm not even human when I dance like this. It's It's an undescribable feeling, really, though it's a great feeling, honestly. It's like I'm being possessed by the wolf itself, like the wolf wants to be a part of the dance. I feel my spiritual tail, ears, claws, fur, and teeth when I invoke the spirit of the wolf during danza, calling out and barking to match the energy in the ceremony. And that creates an immense amount of euphoria for my being. I'm still learning to invoke the vulture aspect of my being, since that side of my non-humanity is pretty new to my being. And though, very unfortunately, I've been having to take a break from ceremonial dancing because of my severe knee injury. As some of my friends know, I walk with a mobility device now because of the pain, so I have to learn to put the pressure during dancing on my other knee without harming myself, per se. So, you may all be wondering why exactly eagles are sacred to indigenous peoples like myself. So, eagle is a sacred animal to indigenous peoples all over the world, though especially to indigenous North American peoples. Every tribe and nation has different beliefs regarding the eagle, though generally the eagle, at least in the continental Americas, is considered the messenger of the creator, who takes the prayers and the thoughts of the people on his wings and on his feathers to the creator. To us indigenous Mesoamerican peoples, though, specifically, the eagle is the animal that flies closest to the sun, and that's very significant to us for quite a few ways. Though to the Mexica people specifically, the sun is the undefeated warrior that all Mexicas strive to be like. Many of us danzantes, we endure because we want to be like the sun. Even when we're pushed like exhaustion, we want to be like the undefeated warrior. The sun is the warrior who descends into the underworld every night and always rises again, undefeated. And we want to, and many Mexica people, and I think many other indigenous Mesoamerican peoples want to embody that. We want to continue going on. We want to continue dancing even when we are battling our own enemies. So, eagle flying close to the sun is therefore very significant. In the creation of the Five Suns story, which is the creation story of the Mexica people in Tenochtitlan, the golden eagle was originally a pure white eagle before he flew over the sacred fire that was used to sacrifice the gods Nanahuatzin and Tequistikal, the ashes from which giving him his dark plumage, along with the jaguar, who received his spots from the fire. Eagle is therefore considered very close to the gods and keeper of ancient wisdom, and also a witness to the founding events of this world. At least that's what many Mexica people believe. Everything the eagle is and has always been incredibly important to us indigenous peoples, and his feathers are a sacred gift that guides us in both good times and bad, a gift that teaches us about ourselves and the human experience as we continue walking the Red Road. The Red Road is a term used by indigenous peoples to essentially describe walking through life. It is important to note, though, that indigenous peoples don't worship eagles. At least most don't. I can't speak for every indigenous person. I mean, my own relationship borders on worship sometimes, but I don't worship the eagle. An explanation by an elder named Victor Lyon explains indigenous peoples' relationships with eagles pretty well, I think. He says in one video, our relationship with Migizi, eagle, is not one of worship. We don't worship the eagle. We don't worship the feather. Our relationship is based on love. And again, that's a common misconception spread amongst non-native people, stating that indigenous peoples worship the eagle, since his feathers and him himself are honored so greatly. And by the way, I use him to describe eagle because that's how a lot of our elders talk about eagle when describing him. So that's the reason for that. Elder Victor Lyon also talks about a legend in Anishinaabe culture, and that he says there's a legend that goes along with eagle and how he was willing to sacrifice himself in order to save us, save mankind, the Anishinaabe. That's where you find the eagle in the 7 teachings of love in Anishinaabe teaching. It's usually represented by the eagle. And that's what these feathers represent to us, aka Anishinaabe, his love, the creator. And when we find one feather, it helps us to remind us of the love that the creator has for all of us, that the creation has for all of us, and that we should have love for each other also. And that's one example of eagle teaching indigenous peoples about a positive trait that all people should have. So the eagle means many things to indigenous peoples, but often this relationship is based on respect, love, and a desire to receive wisdom to continue walking the red road in a good way. I myself look to the eagle for guidance to continue holding good traits as I continue walking this human life. Though I wasn't always so connected to birds. I never felt connection with eagles before I started dancing in traditional ceremonies. Even when I was originally reconnecting to my indigenous heritage, I was indifferent to avians. Though when I did start dancing, when I did start doing ceremony, I always saw hawks, vultures, and the occasional eagle flying over our ceremonial grounds. And I was almost always the only one who noticed them. There were many occasions where I wasn't even looking up at the sky, and I felt this powerful urge to look up at the sky, and that's when I noticed them. Like the birds were calling out to my being, letting my being know that they were there. It's like they wanted my being to have this connection with them. So I didn't really seek out this connection with eagle and other birds of prey. It kind of just fell into my life as I was doing ceremony, and that's another reason why I think that it was meant to be. And even elders and experienced members of the community didn't notice these birds, though I was the only one who did. And I think that's pretty significant. Even outside of ceremony, though, I've always seen birds of prey in my daily life. I see vultures and hawks every day where I live, and I've seen red-tailed hawks a lot where I live. I mean, of course, they're common in Texas, but though the red-tailed hawk is also very significant to indigenous peoples. To some indigenous peoples, the red-tailed hawk has the same work as the eagle and is therefore honored the same way as the eagle. It's why you'll often see indigenous elders have red-tailed hawk fans at powwows. I've seen quite a few myself, actually. Though there's this one significant occasion, last year actually, when I was walking to the Seattle airport after taking a trip to Seattle for attending After Northwest. And I had this unspeakable urge to look up at the sky as I was walking beside this busy road. And there were two bald eagles circling above my being for almost 15 minutes as I continued walking to the airport. I don't know what called them to be there, though. They stuck around my being for a while, and it was like they were saying farewell and thank you for visiting Seattle. And as someone who is deeply connected to eagles, that was very profound and something that I was very grateful to have experienced. I've had a few more significant experiences with eagles, one that I will actually need to go to the mature section for because it involves a near-death experience and psychoactive substances. Though ever since I started engaging with ceremony, birds have become a part of my daily earthen life. And not just as many of you know, my mate Luunaathh is obsessed with quail for some unholy reason. I was still indifferent to avians, even when he tried to convince my being to love them. It was only during ceremony that I started connecting with them. My mate had nothing to do with it, in spite of his insane love for quail. Though eagles especially, I started feeling a very strong pull towards as I saw them more and more during ceremonies. Especially as I learned more about eagles and how beautiful their feathers could be. Again, my connection with eagle wasn't something I sought out. It was something that just kind of fell into place in my life. Now, though, on the exact topic of this panel, I'm certain you all are wondering how exactly eagles aid my being in discovering my draconity. I should preface, though, that eagles don't mean much to my true draconian self, Luunaathh, the divine dragon. The highest she thinks of them is being interesting animals, and being good friends with one eagle. Luunaathh has an eagle, not servant, though, familiar, I guess, an eagle that he sends to watch over other worlds and stuff. And that eagle's name is Zila Kulentis. Very interesting name, I know. And he's a black voidal eagle. Though, upon this earth, the medicine and the energy of the eagle aids my being in connecting with my true draconian self, and the draconian creator divinity that I worship. And therefore, my connection with eagle upon this earth is much more profound because I'm a lot more affected by eagles upon this earth, more than my true draconian self could ever be. I believe that I'm being watched by an eagle upon this earth, and that partly has to do with that near-death experience I had, and that this eagle chose to watch over my being as a result of being interested in my draconity. I'm not exactly sure who this eagle is, though at some point I want to go out into nature, do a ritual, and possibly get in contact with them. I think it's a he, though. My werewolf self, Narok, also had a connection with eagles, though that was more that she tolerated them scavenging from her kills, and she, quote unquote, enjoyed them seeing flying around her. Though she had limited intelligence and emotions, so enjoyed is kind of the wrong term. I guess it's just the best term I could think of. Though I also believe that I'm meant to become a vulture when this human life ends, and that also has to do with the near-death experience I had. I have a theory that the eagle that watches over my being is the one that's going to guide my being through that life, and therefore my connection with eagle is going to become very significant, even more significant than it is now as I connect with that vulture aspect of my being. Though a lot of that non-humanity for myself is still very unknown and something I'm only very recently figuring out. So I unfortunately can't go into more detail about this side of my being. And I'll discuss it more at future summits, though it's just all very unknown for my being right now. I also have a black jaguar ethereal type that directly connected to my indigenous Maya heritage that persisted as a spirit long after its death, though that life's connection was more with Lord Tezcatlipoca, the Lord of the Smoky Mirror. He's known as many different gods, per se, throughout Mesoamerica, though he chose to interact with my being for some reason. I don't know why. He just did. Though that's a separate story that I'll discuss at a later point, probably the Therian convergence, because my Jaguar ethereal type would fit more with the Therian convergence. Though, considering what I am in this life, an indigenous Maya person, and what I'm meant to be in the next life, I suppose it's incredibly fitting that I would have this kind of deep connection with eagles. And I'm glad that I have this connection, honestly. It's brought a lot of positivity into my life, and it's taught my being to be a better person, a better indigenous person, a better dancer, a better lots of things. So, eagle feathers specifically are very sacred gifts. The eagle feather that I'm holding right now is a very sacred gift, and I believe I was meant to have this feather. The great creator made my being have this feather. I saw a question pop up, and I'll do answer questions after this panel, or after I read my script. Though every nation has different protocol for how one takes care of eagle feathers, though generally an eagle feather is meant to be honored and tended to with sacred medicines such as white sage, palo santo, what's the other one? Cedar and sweetgrass. And it's also meant to be smudged frequently. Smudged as in smoke cleansed. Though there are a couple of explanations from indigenous elders that I feel represent how many indigenous peoples, including myself, feel about eagles and their feathers. Though I'll give the explanation by Chief Oren Lyons, Faither Keeper of the Onondaga Nation, and he says that the eagle is the most powerful animal, or the most powerful bird, and flies the closest to the creator. And therefore he carries your words on his wings and carries them as the messenger who reaches closest to the creator. So we value his feathers and we value his presence. As stated before, the eagle has always been the messenger who carries our prayers to the creator. And therefore, he's very, very important. Chief Lyons also states, they, as in feathers, tie us, as in native peoples, together with the creation. And that's actually a very significant statement. There was another statement by an indigenous dancer that I read in a book. They were talking about eagle feathers and feathers in general. And they said that the feather represents the identity of an indigenous person. That's not exactly what they said, though it was close. And I feel that a lot. I feel that my eagle feather helps define my identity as an indigenous person. It represents a lot of good traits that I strive to be like. It represents power that I strive to embody during dance and ceremony. And I think a lot of indigenous people feel this way. There's a lot of ways, like I said before, that the eagle is considered sacred, though this is just one of the many ways. And to all indigenous lands and nations, the medicine of the feather, as in the energy and the healing of the feather, what it means to us has always been very sacred and important in our indigenous beliefs, ceremonies, and daily living. The eagle feather, for many indigenous peoples, it's meant to be a part of your daily life. It's not just something you receive and then put away. It's something you involve in your daily life. It's something you tend to in your daily life, and it's an honor that you always want to recognize whenever possible. Though, when talking about the, I kind of fuzzed up the sentence though. The eagle feather teaches indigenous peoples a lot of things, like I said before, like confidence and bravery, many noble traits that guide us in this life and that we should strive to be like. And this is going to get a little sad on Maine, though. It's unfortunately a very real fact. Many indigenous peoples do not have good lives. We are disproportionately affected by things like poverty, addiction, abuse, and a lot of that's due to colonization. So having these eagle feathers, these sacred items in our daily life, especially for many indigenous peoples who live on the reservations, it's very not only empowering but also healing. It reminds us that there's still hope and that we need to persist in spite of hope for future generations, not just for us and those who mean everything to us. So the eagle feather is not just a sacred symbol, it's also something that teaches us to continue thriving and continuing on in the face of adversity. The Chief Lyons also said another thing about the eagle feather, and this was regarding what I'm doing right now, holding the eagle feather. He says, when he, person, is carrying this feather, eagle feather, he's also announced that everything he's saying is the truth. And this is what the eagle represents. It's a messenger to Creator, and he's not afraid to speak the truth and speak what he feels. And I feel that when I'm holding this eagle feather, right now, as I'm doing this panel, I'm speaking the truth. I'm speaking in a good way, that I hold the confidence to speak the truth and to speak in a good way. Indigenous peoples, really anyone, should aspire to embody and honor good traits that help you as a person, you know? And to us Indigenous peoples, we should aspire to embody the regal aspects of the eagle, the good traits of the eagle. And if we as Indigenous peoples follow an eagle's example, and we follow the red road in a good way, we'll ultimately live a fulfilling life. And eagle spirits are also known to us Indigenous peoples as wise teachers who can help us through these human lives and teach us to adopt good traits. So many important things about eagles. I have this eagle flight feather that I dance with on occasion, and having this feather gives my being the confidence to dance as a non-human being rather than a human. I came to hold this eagle feather. Oh, there we go. I came to hold this eagle feather when I started a project to give wedge-tailed eagle feathers to non-tribally enrolled elders and community leaders who need them, because wedge-tailed eagle feathers can be legally imported into the US, and you know, not all of us are tribally enrolled. Being tribally enrolled is sometimes a privilege that many people don't have. So I figured that I would help spread the medicine of the eagle to some of our elders who really need it, and to get my hands on some of these feathers and give it to them. I was allowed to keep one of these feathers, the one I'm holding right now, to guide my being throughout my path of the Red Road. Though do keep in mind, though, that these feathers are supplied with proper permits to avoid any legal trouble, so no one can narc on my being because I will just show U.S. Fish and Wildlife the permit. Again, as stated before, my feather is a wedge-tailed eagle feather, and it has a black tip, a white base, and brown spots all throughout. Every part of the eagle feather represents something sacred to my being, and each strand of the feather, it means something to my being, and I'll go into that a little bit more in a second. The eagle feather I hold represents so much to my being, not only as an Indigenous Maya dancer, though as a non-human identifying individual. I'm just endlessly grateful to have this eagle feather. It means more to my being than I could ever imagine. I always dance with it in ceremonies. I always use it in my daily life. And I'll post a picture of it right here so you can see this feather in all its glory. So, first and foremost, the eagle feather represents my relationship with the Draconic creator divinity who I worship. I call him the creator, I call him the almighty infinite one, I call him the Draconian beast of the void, many things. Well, not beast, more like king, though. Or it's hard. The almighty infinite one is a black-scaled void dragon who sparked all of creation into existence with the first sacred fire, sparked from his claws and maw. He created the unending multiverse where my true draconian self, Luunaathh, originates from. Though I will say I do not claim that he created this world or this universe. Though I still honor him as the creator in this life, and he's the only one that I will honor, alongside the ones who I call the Almighty Tempest one and the Almighty Volcanic one. I honor my origins before this earth and life, before anything else, and I recognize where I originated from. Though the eagle feather, I believe, is a very unique way and a very powerful way for my being to connect with the creator. And it's a way that only I could do, because I'm a Draconic identifying indigenous Maya traditional dancer. I don't know anyone else like that. So I smudge my eagle feather very often. I've been slacking a little bit lately, though, with blessings from the creator, asking the spirit of the medicine and the eagle to carry my prayers to him, the Almighty Infinite One, in a good way. I see the black strands of the eagle feather as representative of the voidal black scales of the Almighty Infinite One. So the very appearance of this feather, I believe, gives my being a connection to the creator that I worship. And holding the eagle feather during Draconian rituals to the Almighty Infinite One, the Almighty Tempest one, and the Almighty Volcanic one allows my being to connect with them in a very unique way, a way that only I could do. The eagle feather seems to almost empower my connection to the great Draconian creators that I honor. And as I spoke of before, I believe they wanted my being to have this feather that I hold today. That it made its way to my being because the great Draconian creator wanted my being to have it. And I feel that holding this eagle feather gives my being the courage to walk the red road as a non-human being. That it encourages my being to discover more about myself. I believe that the eagle calls my being to engage in ceremony and ritual more, to have the confidence to discover myself more. And in the eagle's medicine, it's in a way like having my mate and astral guardian Altanach around. It's a very positive presence that encourages my being to bring out the best of myself, and also wells of knowledge. I feel that it's a lot easier to invoke phantom shifts when I hold the eagle feather, and that in of itself helps me to uncover memories from my old lives. And I'm just incredibly grateful to have this eagle feather in my life. It brings so many positive things in my life that I thank the almighty infinite Draconic creator for every single day. Though ultimately, even everything about my connection with the eagle feather that I just explained is just the tip of the iceberg, or the tip of the feather if we want to go with that analogy. I know a lot of this panel was more explaining my draconity rather than the connection, and my indigenous heritage rather than the connection with the eagle feather myself. Though honestly, a lot of this is just a connection that I genuinely can't explain with words. It was even hard to put words onto this script to describe what I felt about the eagle feather. There's just not any words in the English language that I could use to describe how profound this feather is to my being. And not only as an indigenous person, though as a non-human identifying individual. It means absolutely everything to my being. And honestly, I don't think I could describe my connection, any better than I already have. Maybe I could add a few words into there at some point, though. It's just not possible to fully explain my connection with this feather. And it just means everything to my being. I'm so grateful to have it. Though that is the end of my script, I will go ahead and look at the panel discussion chat to see if there was any questions that I received that I could answer. Bela says, how did I find out what you're going to be in your next life? Again, I'll have to explain that in the mature section because a lot of that came from the experience I had with psychoactive substances. And I'll give it like 2-3 more minutes to see if anyone else wants to ask any questions about my being, whether it's about whether it's about eagle knowledge or whether it's about my own experiences with connecting with my Draconity through eagles. And I'll be happy to answer any questions as long as they're in good faith, you know. Yeah, I'm always happy to share information about my heritage, especially because there's not a lot of information out there regarding indigenous Maya people and, you know, the ceremonial traditions that I engage with that isn't either false or just about the ancient Maya, to which the ancient Maya are not the same as the modern Maya. I mean, they are, though. Many of the traditions are no longer practiced. How do I discuss my Draconic experiences with other indigenous dancers? I often don't. I don't usually bring up my Draconity in indigenous spaces. What I usually bring up, though, is my wolf stereotype, my jaguar stereotype, and my vulture stereotype. Actually, I found that indigenous communities are very accepting of alter humans. I've never had an issue with someone, you know, ragging on my being for being non-human. Everyone's always been very accepting, and it's just seen as a really cool thing, honestly. Just waiting on the other questions. Oh yeah, indigenous culture is amazing to learn. I unfortunately didn't know anything about my indigenous heritage until my adult years. Basically, as is the same with a lot of indigenous Mesoamerican people, we just grew up around Latino culture, and unless a family member tells us that we're indigenous, we just assume that, oh, we're just Mexican, oh, we're just Latino or Latine or whatever. So unfortunately, I mean, I know a lot more about indigenous Mesoamerican culture more than I do about Latino culture, though Latino culture in of itself was mainly my personal experience with my people and my family more than indigenous, anything indigenous related. A black scale draconic being, though this being is the only, I only know, this being is only one that I know. He has a very distinct appearance, very long snoot. Many of you know I am a long snoot dragon. The creator I worship is also long snoot. I like to joke that the longer the snoot, the greater significance you have. So by that logic, the creator I worship is he's got the biggest snoot. Only the biggest snoot is at the top of the pyramid. Also, we'll have to discuss that more because that is interesting. The question is, do you think being born into indigenous body and culture is part of a plan for your being? And can you imagine having been born into a different culture on this planet and end up the same as you are in regards to your draconity? I actually don't have an answer for that. I know my true draconian self wanted to experience indigenous culture, though why indigenous Maya specifically, I don't exactly know. Altanah could tell my being. I'll have to ask him later. Though I'm not exactly sure what about indigenous Maya culture fascinated Luunaathh. Maybe the connection to the sun because she's a star dragon, and maybe. Well, actually, this is a little tidbit of information that I'm just thinking about. There are these things called star demons in Mexica culture, and they're called Sizimimes. And honestly, Luunaathh could be a Sizimime in her humanoid form because she can like a very scary face. That's just a theory on my end, though. I mean, it's possible. I think the sun thing is more. Is probably more has more truth to it, I guess. Though again, I don't really know, and I can't imagine myself being born into a different culture because I'm so connected with my indigenous Maya culture. We have a lot of interesting stuff in Mesoamerican cultures, though it it's not talked about a lot, unfortunately. There's not a lot of information about it. At least information that isn't falsified. So I do my best to put together knowledge. The Draconian creator I worship definitely doesn't have 9 eyes. He only has 2, and 1 long snoot. The big snoot boy. Rather than the snoot comment, I don't think I necessarily have anything else to add to this panel. So I will go ahead and end it here. And I really appreciate everyone attending this panel and listening to my being ramble about eagles and indigenous culture and draconity. Again, it means a lot to my being, and I'm glad I could share this knowledge with everyone. And if anyone wants to ask my being some questions in a draconic voice after I end this stage, then feel free to. And again, thank you all so much, and I hope you all have a good rest of the summit. We have, let's see what panel's happening next. Subarctic Machinations by Cyrenex. Excited for that one. So I will see some of you in voice, I will see some of you at the next panel, and I will see the rest of you later. Thank you so much for attending.